The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Animated Anarchy, where we take a critical look at animated features of all kinds to determine the good and the bad. Hi again, I'm Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And we're here today to not talk about just one movie.
Yes, this is a first for us.
We're going to talk about two movies. And it's the weekend, of course, it being September 25th. Well, whatever it is, it's the weekend of September.
This is a good start. You don't even know what day it is.
What day is it, Mike?
The 25th?
What year is it?
It is, and I know this off the top of my head. It's the 26th, actually.
As you flip open your iPad. Okay, nice. Good save there. Okay. Anyway, so many of you might know that Hotel Transylvania 2 came out this weekend.
Yes.
And we decided we're going to make a day of it and actually go out and watch the movie and then review it on this show. However, we also made the decision that since I have Hotel Transylvania 1 on Blu-ray, we thought we'd watch that first. And it's a fun movie. I mean, let's start off with that.
Yeah. So I remember seeing this movie, which the strange thing about this movie is that I remember first hearing about it almost been like a decade ago.
Yeah.
And being like, really? Hotel Transylvania? Let me guess. So Dracula runs a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
Well,
and
here's
not knowing what it was going to be.
Well, here's the thing. It was like I was honestly really sketchy about it just because Adam Sandler was involved in
but he didn't get involved until a lot later into the movie.
I guess not, but it's like when this movie came out, it's like that's what they mentioned. They said Adam Sandler was going to be the voice of Dracula, and but Genndy Tartakovsky was going to be the director. So this is probably like later on.
This is a lot later.
Yeah, where there was a lot more. I mean, we looked this up. There was a lot of different things.
A lot of people. Genndy was the 6th director on it.
Oh my god! You have to read down the list of directors.
Well, the thing is, if you notice, we're going to talk about the movie, but if you notice, the background styling, the art direction of the movie was already set in stone before Genndy came in to do the movie.
Yeah.
So he kind of came in, had a very short amount of time to make this movie, and he did a pretty decent job of putting it all together. And
it makes me wonder how much was already done. Like all the characters were already rigged or something.
Most of the characters were, from what I've heard, they already were rigged and designed.
Yeah.
So and then when he came on, he put his own sensibilities in it.
Yeah, and it definitely shows.
Yeah,
I mean,
but certain characters are definitely more in the vein of a Genndy character than the others.
Yeah, the characters themselves look very I should say like traditional. In the sense like how they're placed and like in the designs and everything. I mean they're also posed in very traditional senses as well. And throughout this entire movie, it's like the animation is just like very different from a lot of CG movies that we've seen already.
Yeah.
This one is very pop and locky sort of animation, and there are moments where it's like the animation is really very smooth and very normal CG, I would say. And then there's moments where it's like things just happen really fast, and then it's like pop, pose, 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 and it's like those were drawings. And I remember seeing like not like a documentary, like a behind the scenes sort of thing, where Genndy would like come up to the animation and they would draw over.
Yeah, they did similar things like that in Tangled with Glenn Keane on Tangled.
Yeah, and
to push because a lot of CG animators. I'm surprised when I heard about this. A lot of CG animators didn't have a background in 2D, so they're working, from the computer from the get-go.
Yeah, and
then some people just need that extra push to push their sensibilities a bit and push the pose and push the silhouette. And luckily, there are people like Genndy who kind of are like, push it a little farther.
Yeah, you need a traditional sense before you get into something. It helps.
At least if you're looking for that specific look of a movie.
Right. But I mean, like I think it honestly helps in any animated movie that you would kind of need a good sense of traditional animation in your background to kind of like sort of push the whole illusion of life sort of thing.
But you'll be surprised though, because I've heard people really not. Like people who are traditional, like even at Disney, who and some of the CG animators don't want to hear their advice. Like they're like, "You're so old fashioned. Get out of here. We're making the movies now."
Well, I guess that's the way. I guess it depends from person to person.
It depends on the person. It depends on the studio. It depends on who the director is, and it depends, just what they're looking for in terms of the movie that they're making. In the case of Hotel Transylvania, and in movies like Cloudy, which came before the first Cloudy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which came before Hotel Transylvania. It's kind of on the same.
That was Sony Animation too.
That was
right?
Sony also, and that movie to me, Cloudy, feels like the first CG movie where things were really, really pushed. Yeah. Like to the point where you're like, wow, this is CG. It feels like a cartoon.
A lot of squash and stretch, a lot of really extreme poses and
organic, very
like very whippy animation, very, like things would just snap immediately. Like you would get to one pose and then to another pose almost immediately.
Yeah, and the models are pushed in terms of their design.
Oh yeah, it's like I almost kind of wonder because the models are just like liquid. It's like they kind of like mold them into something else. I'm wondering if there's different rigs or if there's different ways to like animate. It's funny. I don't know. I'm really curious, honestly, about the process.
I know that I assume the what it takes to rig a character, and like now with technology being where it is now, it might be easier to do it than it was a few years ago. Because I met someone who worked on I
remember trying to rig like CG's models, and I was like,
it's a hard gig.
Yeah,
it's a hard job.
It was the one thing that no one wanted to do. Yeah, rigging was like the most boring, the most tedious, the most just time-consuming thing to do.
But the people who do it are workhorses, and they know how to like. You look at some of these characters, especially in Hotel Transylvania 1, and more so in 2, which I feel like they got away with a lot more, and the models were pushed even further in the second movie. Yeah. But like I met someone who worked on the CG Looney Tunes shorts, like the Sylvester and Tweety one, and the Roadrunner and Coyote ones, and the Daffy one. If the camera even moves slightly over to the right or the left, the model's broken. You have to almost break the model, and if you look behind them, you just see shards of things going through other things.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we see the Peanuts trailer. Yeah, it's like if you kind of like rotated the camera around them, they'd just probably be like flat.
Well, also,
or something.
Snoopy's eyes would probably only be on one side of his head. Yeah, which wouldn't help. And also, I mean, because it's weird because certain characters, like especially Charlie Brown, you have to, and we should be talking more about that when that movie comes out. But you have to, those characters, especially the Peanuts characters, you have to cheat them. Yeah. Charlie Brown's nose, when he's staring at you, when he's in front view, his nose is right in between his face, it's right in between his eyes.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of
sideways. His nose goes down.
There's a lot of cheating involved.
Graphic cheating.
Yeah, it's like with this movie as well. I mean, wherever the camera's placed, all the characters will have to like face that camera direction. So if it like rotates a bit, then you kind of like lose that, or you have to make the character move in a way where it like follows the camera so it doesn't like destroy that illusion. Right. Yeah. So in a sense, it's like it makes me think. Like I can't think off the top of my head in the first one anyway of a lot of rotating outside of that one scene where they're on top of the building. And it's just like spins around.
Because I think it's different because this movie, Gendy in this case, because he loves just, focusing on the action that's right in front of you and showing just what you need to show. Yeah. Because normally in CG, you have to animate all around because you don't know where the camera's going to be. We might say, we might put the camera lower or we might put the camera higher. But with Gendy, he's late, or with a lot of movies today even, you have to now, it looks like he planned his shots so that you only see a specific thing. Because I would love to be a fly on the wall and just see those shots where the characters get really graphic and they turn sideways and their mouth is just a giant gaping hole. Yeah. And I just love to see, like, just pause the movie and just take the camera and spin it around and just see how broken and nasty that model looks from just any angle besides the angle that you're showing it from. Because that's why they're doing what they're doing. Exactly. Is because it looks a very funny and specific way because the camera is only pointing at the direction that the viewer, the director wants you to see.
So in a sense, it's like, even though this is a CG movie, it has a lot of traditional senses to it. Yeah. Like a lot of traditional sensibility to it. And I honestly love that. Yeah. I mean, like looking at it, it just makes me happy to see something really wacky and cartoony. Something that can, like, characters aren't constantly on this stiff model. Yeah. Where they can break, like they can break that mold, and they can get out of the shapes that they're normally in.
Yeah.
So and it leaves a lot of expression, a lot of motion, a lot of great posing.
Oh, yeah.
that just like I was laughing my ass
my
off
God,
at some
it
of the
was great.
poses in the first one.
Yeah,
just like
and even
how,
the second one, you were laughing.
Oh, yeah.
It would be an expression on a character's face, and I would hear you chuckle. You were the loudest person in the theater. I bet the children in the theater were probably like, "Who's that man that's laughing?"
Yeah, all the children were laughing at the scenes that they thought were funny,
Yeah.
and then
But,
when they weren't laughing, I was laughing.
Yeah,
So because
you're the last person to laugh. But the funny thing was, even like for me, like I enjoy the CG Disney movies. I enjoy the Pixar movies.
I do too. Yeah.
But it's kind of refreshing to go to a movie and or watch a movie and just get a taste of something new.
Yeah.
And see something that's really, really like that doesn't look like anything else. And
Yeah, because like when you think about it, with a lot of traditionally animated Disney movies, even they are kind of conformed to this one model, and they need to keep their shape, they need to keep their form, and they need to like stay at a certain like dimension, because they have to be treated that way, and that gives you the illusion that this is a character that is sort of treated realistically. And then you have the moments of characters which you can be. There are boundless opportunities to make this character stretchy or crazy or anything, and that is what I love about it. Is that you can be as restrained and off the wall as much as you want with it. And I love seeing it in stuff like this, where it's like they are treating things in a way where it's like they know the restrictions at certain points, and then they know how to make it go crazy when it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that's the fun of it, watching these movies.
And the funny thing is about, say, this movie compared to, say, any Pixar movie, especially, say, I'm going to bring up an example like Monsters, Inc. movies or whatever. In a movie of that, with that sort of aesthetic, you normally try not to push the model. There's never a moment in a Pixar movie where they really push the model to the extent. And the animators their job is to keep the characters grounded and realistic.
Yeah.
And then there's the few times where people do make the crazy flair or make a crazy expression on a character, and it feels out of place sometimes, but it's kind of a welcome sight. While like I can imagine the animators on, say, Cloudy or on the Hotel Transylvania movies, if you don't push the characters to their limit, then it doesn't. I'm not saying that you're not as good of an animator, but the aesthetic is so different that now it's like your job is to push the character as far as you can.
Right. And
anything that's not pushed to the far as it can, it's almost like why isn't it being pushed as far as it can?
Yeah.
So whenever like Dracula or Jonathan or one of those, or the really crazy monster characters, when they're not, their expressions or their poses are not pushed to the extent they can be pushed, or what you expect of the character now, because you've already seen them do a crazy pose, then you're like, wait, why isn't he going farther than he needs to go? Why isn't his mouth opening up 10 times wider than it should be? And I love watching these movies. Like we just came from the theater. Seeing number 2.
We just got back. And speaking of, we're going to talk about the first movie
first.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
And once we get to the second one, I will basically warn that there's going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie already, just be forewarned that we will be talking about the story and just what happens generally, because we have a couple things to say about that. With that said, let's talk about the first movie.
Yeah.
Hotel Transylvania. So we start off with Dracula, played by Adam Sandler, with his child, a little girl named Mavis, or was it Mavis? Mavis, yeah. And basically, it starts off with the concept of while he is raising this little girl, he is making a hotel, like a giant castle, basically, for monsters to come in and feel safe on, I guess, vacation days. It's like on like they're probably in hiding a whole lot of the whole lot of the time, and this is a place where they can feel safe and be themselves and everything. And he basically made this because of his daughter, because he's like a father who lost his wife due to humans being terrible and like lighting her on fire. And
Yeah.
she's dead. Basically, Mavis is his only child with a lone parent, and the father is really overprotective of this.
And in the case of this movie, it is Hotel Transylvania, and it is a hotel. There's room service and there's bellhops, and it's great. The bellhops are zombies.
Yes, yeah.
And there's
A lot of great opportunities for
the witches are the janitorial staff, which I think is really funny.
Yeah.
But it's funny because in the first movie, it almost feels like everybody is just because you never see how the hotel is functioning when it's not, because it's Mavis's birthday. It's her 118th birthday. She looks very.
She looks good for.
She looks good.
Very good for
118.
It's like, and I was saying this before. You know, like on the risk of sounding creepy, Mavis's design is pretty hot.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. She's 118.
Yeah, if she was 112, that'd be pretty creepy.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like,
Oh God. We didn't need to go there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's funny because like everybody comes to the hotel, and I guess it's now. I
guess all at once.
It's all at once. Yeah,
it's like their vacation time.
Yeah, the
That's what I'm
hotel
saying.
is empty. Otherwise, it seems.
Yeah,
but
and that's basically their home. That's
where Dracula lives and Mavis live.
Yeah,
and so now all these people are coming to celebrate Mavis's birthday. So you get Murray the Mummy, who's voiced by CeeLo Green.
Yeah,
and
Frankenstein by Kevin James, who also has a wife named Eunice, voiced by Fran Drescher. She doesn't have a whole lot of lines, but it's kind of hilarious that they got Fran Drescher to voice this character because it's the nanny.
Yeah,
it's
played
really,
up the nanny.
Right,
it's
right. It's
more
like
played up.
Yeah, it's basically the nanny as the Frankenstein's wife. You know,
Yeah.
and it's that's pretty funny. Steve Buscemi plays Wayne, who is a wolf,
a very tired
werewolf.
The thing is, I love his. I mean, the designs are great in this movie, but I just love his design.
Yeah.
Only because when you see him next to his wife, who's very content.
Yeah.
And she's got a little.
She's always pregnant.
She's always pregnant.
She's
got
never.
a belly.
She's never not pregnant.
Yeah. And then
by the way, her she's voiced by Molly Shannon, which I honestly wouldn't know because she doesn't have a lot of lines.
Yeah.
Like so, really, that's like. Whatever.
Yeah, and he's got a million kids.
Yeah, a million kids that are just like little ravenous.
And he just looks miserable, which is what I love about him.
He's like the father who of the octuplets or something, and just like really just tired of everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is like to the extreme. It's just he has like 200 kids at some
Yeah.
point. It's like it changes, but I mean,
the numbers fluctuate.
Yeah,
you never know how many kids.
And David Spade is the Invisible Man.
Probably the hardest character design in the movie. What frame of glasses should we give him?
Right, yeah. And those are the main monsters of the movie. And it's like they all have really great designs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, having seen these, I will say universal monster movie characters. I mean, that's basically what they are. They're all the universal monster movies. And seeing them in this sort of style is really kind of neat, and it's an interesting take on them. And we've seen like tons and tons of different designs of these characters before, but like seeing as like Frankenstein is like this kind of like average everyday dude and the tired werewolf, and of course the Invisible Man is just like glasses that's like floating around. And the Mummy is like this big fat guy, and
it's great seeing them all like together when they're in a group because their designs are so unique to each other. Like the Mummy is just a ball pretty much,
right
next to Frankenstein, who's just a big box,
big rectangle,
and you get all these really great I just love the shape of the werewolf. It's the designs of those characters are fantastic.
And Dracula is like this skinny pole sort of thing, like it kind of like gets bigger at the top,
like an upside down teardrop.
Yeah.
And then so everyone's coming to celebrate Mavis's birthday,
and they're all friends. By the way, they're all like they all know each other,
almost like old college buddies.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh hey Dracula, you old soul, how's it going? Yeah, it's.
And so Mavis wants to go out into the world. And travel the world because apparently, that's how Dracula and his wife met.
They met in Hawaii, and she found like a postcard. Okay, this starts off like in the 1800s,
Yes.
This was a question that I had to you, and I was like, okay, they met in Hawaii, and it's the 1800s. Mavis was born like
118, 2012.
Yeah, so
we'll do the math. It's 1800s either way.
Right. So, were there postcards in Hawaii in like the 1800s?
Well, there was a Hawaii. It wasn't.
I know, but I mean,
it wasn't a state yet.
But it wasn't like a tourist destination, right?
I wouldn't know.
But yeah,
The existence of postcards
leaves
might
the
be
question.
pushing it.
Yeah. But still, it's like it's a reason to say like Mavis is really interested in the outside world, but of course. Dracula doesn't want her to leave because he's really overprotective, and he basically brings out this ruse that humans are really awful people, and they will stake you at the first sight of you.
Shove garlic bread in your face.
Garlic bread in your face, yeah, and burn you with pitchforks and torches, and it basically leaves the dynamic that this is a really overprotective dad, and he wants her to basically stay at home.
Yeah, because he's because he really does love her, and he misses his wife.
I mean, it's all good intentions.
Yeah,
and it's like he has good reason to. I mean, his wife was destroyed by humans. And they even bring that story up like later on. So rather dramatically too. It's I honestly, it's a nice change of mood. Later in the movie when everything is like really wacky, and then you have like that very somber moment where it's like you find out about the past of Dracula and his wife and what her fate was basically.
Yeah. But there's many reminders up to that point in the movie. Oh yes, my late wife, or Martha would have loved this, or something, or your mother would be so proud, or.
But it's like at that point, it's like you really understand why
he's doing it. Yeah,
it's like there's.
So everything's going according to plan, at least to Dracula's plan, when suddenly this guy comes into the hotel named Jonathan, who's sort of this...
There's a hiker. He's like this Californian like surfer. He calls himself a slacker. Yeah. I mean, and basically that is like the sole definition of a slacker. Just kind of like... kind of reminds me of my nephew a little bit. He just loves hiking. He just goes out into the woods and it's just like a real like hip dude, and loves his technology, but at the same time just likes to hike and go to different places. Yeah. So he basically finds himself in this hotel, and Dracula freaks out.
He's like, human.
How did you find this place? And we should talk about
the voices.
The voices. Adam Sandler as Dracula,
which was the biggest what? Like when I heard about it.
Yeah.
Really? Adam Sandler?
Yeah. But it's kind of funny because it's like this would be probably the most like Adam Sandler-y cast. Well,
it's him and all his SNL
him and all
friends.
of his friends, like who you see in every movie that he does. All the
nowadays, yeah. But it was all his SNL buddies,
like Kevin James and Steve Buscemi and David Spade. Yeah, it's like, and honestly, I think like they really fit their characters. It's their voices and their personalities. I mean, look, let's face it, they do make good characters. Yeah, like these actors are very. I mean, they're good at what they do. They've just been in terrible movies. Yeah, I'm surprised Rob Schneider isn't in this movie though. So
I was really surprised. Yeah. I mean, John Lovitz is in this movie.
Yeah, John Lovitz is in this movie as Quasimodo. He doesn't really show up a whole lot, but he's kind of like the quote unquote villain later on.
He's just he
basically sniffs out the human. It's like throughout the entire movie, Dracula tries to dress up Jonathan as a monster to kind of hide him away because all the monsters think like humans are terrible as well.
Yeah, and as he's doing this throughout the course of the movie, he's gradually building himself, digging himself a hole. Yeah, making things more complicated. Now Jonathan can't. Now he's got to do this party planning, and he's got to.
It's the usual like misunderstanding plot.
Yeah, and then also him just like I got to get this guy out of here, and and something happens and he can't do it.
Yeah, and okay, so basically Dracula is trying to get rid of this human, but at the same time he can't because he needs to like hide him out, and then Mavis meets up with this guy as well, and there's like a moment where they just lock eyes, and there's like that love at first sight sort of thing,
which they call in this movie the zing,
which
you only happen once in your life when you have that zing.
Yeah, and that's that's a kind of like an interesting way to put the whole love at first sight sort of
Yeah.
thing, because they say like Dracula and his wife, that's how they met. It's like when they bumped into each other, they saw each other at the first sight, and it's like, yeah, it was like a zing, and
Yeah.
then we knew we were in love. And for this one, it's more like, oh, we met, and it's not so much like a love at first sight sort of thing. It's just like, I think it's more gradual. Honestly, it's like they meet, and you have that moment where it's like the zing.
Well, it really is love at first sight. There's interest. There's that automatic interest of love, and they zing, and you don't want to. Once you have that, there's a connection there somehow.
Yeah,
even on a very kind of minimal level.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird that I kind of like understand this sort of way about it than most Disney movies, because with a lot of like those Princess Disney movies, it's just kind of like, oh, this is how we're fated to be. It's like we just met, and now it's like I have to find, like Cinderella. It's like, oh, now what's your name? I must find you, and now we must. I must use this glass slipper and find the right one. Oh, you're the one that I love.
Yeah,
that one seems a little bit more unrealistic than this one.
But there is enough, thankfully, in this movie. You don't know. We really don't know how long Jonathan is in the hotel for. Is it 2 days? Is it 3 days? Is it one night?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know how long
it goes on for a while. Time is like it's non-issue.
I assume it's 2 days because the sun rises and sun sets throughout the day.
Yeah,
but there are moments where Jonathan and Mavis's relationship, they interact more and they start to enjoy each other's company more.
Yeah.
And then they have moments alone with each other, and they hit it off really well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, it's basically Dracula is setting up for Mavis's birthday, and we find out that he is like an old fuddy-duddy. He's not really very good at making parties. He's really bad at making social events and stuff like that. They have like the what is it, the bingo, yeah,
bingo and charades and
right.
Old. Yeah, well, he is 100 and whatever, or I don't know. We don't really know how old Dracula is.
He's basically the dad.
He's the dad,
he's like the fuddy-duddy dad that is basically thinks that he's a lot of fun, but really isn't.
He's really a buzzkill.
And it's funny. It's like this entire movie. It's kind of like the whole, the boyfriend comes in and meets up with the dad, and now they have to be chummy. But in a way, it's like a different take on that. So it's like, this guy, he's like a slacker. He's really dumb. He's like he's only hip because he's young, and he's basically coming up with ways to kind of like bump up the whole party.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even in comparison to Dracula, he knows how to party. He just kind of just rolls with it, which they say in the movie that he rolls with it.
They roll with it.
Or the better yet, for Dracula, we said it would have been he just winged it, which would have been a great
well,
pun.
I said that, and you were like, ugh.
Yeah, well, it's a great pun. This is why I'm surprised they didn't use it in a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
there are quite a few puns in this movie.
But whenever there's
no
a moment where Dracula's doing something, and it's like very kind of staid and very kind of, like you said, he's a fuddy-duddy, then you get Jonathan comes in and has a fun way. So like they're at a pool and he's like, you gotta fake a thing and make it so you have to leave.
Yeah.
And he accidentally starts a chicken fight, and then people love him. They want to hang around and they want to hear about his life.
Yeah.
And now things are getting harder and harder for Dracula, because not only does he want to get rid of this human, he doesn't want anyone to discover that he's a human, but at the same time, he doesn't want there to be any sort of relationship between Jonathan and Mavis, yet he also wants to make sure the party goes okay, and he doesn't want have Mavis have thoughts of leaving, and if she falls in love with Jonathan, there's a chance that she want to leave. So things are getting heavier and more complicated, more convoluted, and now the Quasimodo wants to reveal that he's a human, and he's got to hide that. He's been all this, and he's got to make his patrons happy because it is a hotel, and he's got to still run the hotel. So things are building up higher and higher and higher in hilarity. And there's moments throughout the movie where, okay, how does he deal with this situation? How does he deal with that? And then we get to this point where,
and they also get along together. I mean, like
they learn to get along with each other.
Yeah, it's like Dracula and Jonathan start to realize like they actually do like each other at some point.
Yeah,
it's like it's not so much a one-sided thing. It's like, I mean, they have to get along at some point. So
yeah, and then you have that moment where
the misunderstanding.
The misunderstanding.
This is the trope that we always really kind of wait for when it comes to a movie because we know it's going to happen, and it's a thing that's kind of like overused in a lot of movies. But we were talking about this a while ago. I was like, is there a way that we could actually like think of a way to present this differently?
Right, like we were saying it before because when we watched the movie, we were discussing it on the way to the movies to go see Hotel Transylvania 2, and we have to say though, I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but. We
are talking about
the two movies. So the misunderstanding, like in the case of this movie, there was moments where there's the sappy moments where they talk about, I trust you, and we zinged, and I got in the way, and we got to get him back, and that sort of thing.
I basically told Jonathan told Mavis that I was like, no, I don't like you. You're a monster, and I'm a human. I hate monsters. I gotta go because he saw Dracula there.
Yeah, like, I mean, looking at it in the context of the movie, it works, but it's like for us, it's like, oh, could they have done it better? But at the same time, you really can't think of a way they could have done it better. Yeah. Well, so it works in the context of this movie, but there is that twinge of like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
The misunderstanding, and they got to get him back, and it's going to be the sappy moment where they're sitting there.
Yeah.
But it works.
But here's the thing, and I might be saying too much already because it's going to be going into the second movie. There was a scene where I felt that it was going to go into a trope, but it didn't. It did it differently, in which the character Mavis I thought was going to run away. It's like, oh God, now Mavis has run away because she's sad, and now we got to find her, and some event's going to happen. No, she stays.
Yeah.
She stays at the hotel. She's actually on the roof, like basically brooding over the fact that so like I thought we zinged. It's like I thought that I found my true love, but I guess like it doesn't really work that way. So she kind of like lost herself a little bit with that realization, and she doesn't really run away. She stays there. And honestly, it's like I've seen that so many times where it's like the misunderstanding, the character runs away and then they have to look for her, but actually it's the other way around. It's like now it's like the
other, a nice spin on it.
Yeah, really. I mean, like I kind of like that. It's like then basically Dracula has to look for Jonathan again, who he finds out is like on a plane back to California at some point.
Yeah.
And so they get the gang, and they're gonna drive. There's like that whole scene where it's like they drive all together, and each character has their thing that they do on the way there, and then they reach a village.
And there's a monster convention.
There's a monster convention.
It's a festival.
Yeah, it's like a monster festival. It's like hey, what? Why not? I mean, well, this is basically
good timing for the festival. Yeah. It happened while this birthday's going on.
Yeah, this is basically the thing to show that Dracula and all the other monsters, that it's like they're not really feared. They're more celebrated than anything.
Yeah.
Because like
times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed. It's basically today. And it's kind of true.
They don't need to fear humans, and they don't need to hide from humans, and they don't really need. Well.
It's kind of true. It's like when you look at those movies, like the Universal movies, like they were all made like in the early 30s and 40s and all that, and they were basically there to tell these stories about how these monsters were rampaging around the city, and the humans were basically being terrorized by these people. You look back at a lot of those movies. Actually, it's like there's actually double meanings on it.
Yeah.
But I digress. This is basically just to say that people really love monsters. They really celebrate them, and it's like, oh wow, hey look, it's really Dracula, and that's really Frankenstein. Oh wow, awesome. And then Frankenstein basically says like, we gotta help Dracula get to this guy so he can come back and.
And they all help. They all clear a path so he can get through to the airport.
But this entire scene kind of like really halts the story for me. But it is pretty necessary. I mean, it's basically to say that, okay, they interact with humans now. Humans actually like monsters, and they need to progress, and like they found out.
And I'm so glad that, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves again, spoiler, but the second movie, I thought they were going to be like, oh, so a human comes and does something or whatever. The human wasn't a villain in the second movie.
No,
like, it does have there is a vein in the second movie of this isn't right.
Yeah.
Humans and monsters being together isn't right. There's a very slight hint at that.
Yeah.
But it's not too over the head. Yeah. It's not the drive of the story.
Right. it's almost metaphorical, you know. It's
Yeah.
like it's like it's taking the concept of both like racism and like homophobia and stuff like that, and kind of like bringing that in the sense of like this now it's monsters.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that's kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it makes that sort of
Because they're monsters, you can talk about it.
right.
It's a very
That's our word. Monsters.
monsters. Oh God. But so anyway, Dracula gets Jonathan back,
Yeah.
and then they have a
We should say that he is like a bat the entire time chasing this plane, and he is burning.
He's burning
basically from
in
the
the
sun. And there's a lot of time where he's just like on fire and burning, and while he's saying it's like, he is hypnotizing the
pilot to talk over the
talk
PA
over the
system.
intercom and say, "It's like, I'm sorry, I thought
Jonathan,
you need to come back and
Yeah.
and make love to my daughter."
No, he didn't say that.
I know, but yeah,
You make her happy, and you make me happy.
yeah. So
The world needs you.
the world needs you.
I need you.
I need you.
But so he comes back, and then they meet up, and there's a nice moment, and then it ends with like at the time,
yes, yeah.
like most animated movies, it ends with a big dance party,
Like a lot of movies, honestly. I would think that.
a big song and dance number.
Yeah, how many movies lately have you seen that end in like
Not
a
in
dance
the most
number?
recent, not in
No,
recent memory.
This is probably like the last
Big dance
one
party movie.
that I've seen. It would happen a lot, like in probably like the early 2000s,
early to mid to even late 2000s.
Yeah,
I remember at the
yeah.
end of Horton Hears a Who, there was a big song and dance number.
yeah. Seems to be a big thing with like Blue Sky and Sony
Movies. But I mean, not so much. I don't was there
Toy
one?
Story 2?
I know there's definitely one at the end of Robots, but
Oh yeah.
but either way, we digress. But it ends on a nice, happy note, and everyone's together. But I mean, like,
I mean, you were telling me, it's like when you were in the theater watching this, that was probably your most cringeworthy moment. Is that when Dracula raps
in the first movie.
in the first movie?
I was like, oh no, yeah, and he does. He comes up and raps, and I was like, really? Well, okay, fine, let it go.
And it's Adam Sandler rapping.
Yeah,
as Dracula.
which is like, okay, here we go.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, but you look at the movie as a whole, and there's some great visual gags, great,
Decent story, honestly.
decent story. Yeah, it works.
I honestly would say that this is like a movie that is both visually appealing and has a decent story. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really. I mean, there's a lot of nitpicky things that I can talk about.
But at that point, it's like trying to seek perfection. You're never
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
find
yeah.
exactly what you're looking for.
And that's the thing. It's like when you're nitpicking something, it's basically saying it's like I'm trying to find something wrong with this.
Yeah, you're seeking the negative.
And honestly, it's like while I was watching it, when we were watching it earlier today, I was like, I can't really find much wrong with this. I was having a lot of fun.
The only
Like,
times I ever felt like whatever were those sappy moments that you knew were coming. But
yeah.
it's almost in a way like a necessary evil.
Yeah.
It helps move the story. I mean, like we said, there are times like, oh, can they do it any other way than this? And then you
Yeah.
realize, well, what's a better way of doing it? And usually what I love to do, one of my favorite things about going to a movie, it doesn't have to be an animated movie. It could be any movie. But I usually like going with a few people, a few friends, or usually other people who've work in film or filmmaking or animation. And the great thing is going after a movie, just sitting down and just talking about the movie. And in a way, you kind of learn, okay, what didn't work? What did work? What could have been done better?
and you also start to learn other people's tastes.
Yeah, true. But it's kind of nice. And in a way, you watch this movie and yeah, there are things normally you would say, oh, if I did this, I would have done this, and it would have been clearer, and it would have been much more entertaining and not as long and drawn out.
It is honestly easier for me to find something to fix in a movie like, say, Rockadoodle. where it's like, I've already told you how many things that I would love to change about that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and all in all, it's like, it would be a great movie if there was a lot of changes to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of different things, but that's all hindsight. With this movie, if there was something that didn't really like resonate with me very well, and I think to myself, like, what could I change? Not really a whole lot I could change. And that's not saying it's perfect. I mean, there is no way that I can really say that one thing is perfect. But honestly, I do think that this movie is very well done, and it has like a good story, and it really made me feel, I mean, happy.
Yeah, and all around
It's like, and I loved it. And it was like it had a lot of funny parts to it. I mean, the characters were really
enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's so
There's something you could take away from it. And even as like, it's hard when you work in the industry like we do.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me, like, because like when the first time I watch a movie, I try to take it in as a normal viewer.
Yeah.
And then every time you watch it after that, at least for me, it's more like, oh, look at that follow through on that animation.
Yeah.
Look at the background design.
Start looking
man, whoever animated that scene is great.
You start looking at the background characters, and you start looking at all the.
But you just start nitpicking, or not nitpicking, because that's trying to seek the negative. But you analyze from a filmmaking perspective, rather than just being a normal audience goer and just watching a movie for what it is, a story.
And that's where you start to think, like, okay, this is what I would probably do different in that.
Right.
In that scene, I mean, it's not really necessary because it's not really the focus, but honestly, if I had the choice, I would probably change that.
But even on first viewing, when I saw this movie, I felt that there was something different done here, which is good, because I was so used to seeing things that looked like Pixar movies.
Oh, yeah.
Or not to throw Pixar movies down a well or anything. No. They're good.
But they definitely have
it was
like
different.
A look to them.
Yeah, and it's a different, and this movie is a completely different aesthetic, and it was something that I could take from each. You know, the art looked great. The background, the styling of the movie was great. The mood, the pacing was great. I think the only
I don't honestly buy the art of movies very often, but I got like the book of this one like right after seeing it, because I really loved a lot of the characters and I wanted to see more of that. And the book really has like a ton of character design.
I don't have the art book.
Second one doesn't really have that whole lot. But
I didn't see this. I haven't seen it.
But I think they kind of blew their wad in the first one, honestly. And the second one is just like
a couple new characters.
What can we really add to it?
It's really the same locations except for.
Well, that's another thing. It's like we're gonna continue going on with the second movie.
I was gonna say the only thing, that I could truly be like, I can't stop, whatever is, and I noticed this with Hotel Transylvania 1. I definitely noticed it in Hotel Transylvania 2, and I noticed it in the Popeye teaser that was done a while ago, is that I love everything about it. I love the action. I love the mood. I love the composition. I love how characters are organized in a shot. I love all that stuff. But the thing that drives me bonkers, but it's because I have much, not weaker eyesight, but I just can't focus on more than one thing at a time like most people can.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff on
the camera screen. At times does not need to be a character. You don't need to shift the camera over 2 inches over, and then back, and then up, and then down, and then in, and then out. The camera
there is a lot of camera movement.
Which is like, you know what? I want the animation to speak for itself. The camera doesn't have to be. There are moments where the camera can fly through things and move wacky all over the place.
Yeah.
But especially in a frantic scene, like there's a lot of those in Hotel Transylvania where Jonathan realizes, oh my God, this hotel is filled with real monsters, and he's running around. There's some great action, but there's times where I'm like, if the camera just stayed still, I could focus on the action that's in front of me rather than being completely disoriented.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was
it starts to become like a found footage film where it's following the character.
It's like very SMS. Shaken movie syndrome.
Yeah.
You're just, the camera's moving in and out and left and right.
And it happens with a lot of action scenes. I mean, there are moments where it's just like, wow, this is going way too fast, and there's way too much information going on at once.
Yeah.
So it's like you really have to like pay attention to it.
Which is why I'm looking forward to the Peanuts movie, because with Peanuts, the camera, you can't really move the camera. The characters, you can either pan to the left, pan to the right, you zoom in, you zoom out, you zoom up, you zoom down. There really isn't a lot of like crazy action, refocusing, moving left and right. Even in the trailers, you don't really see that. It's usually just left to right, up and down. And I think the most action the camera has is in, I guess, when Snoopy has his daydreams of being a flying ace.
Yeah.
And the camera now is moving around. It's very dynamic.
We'll probably start talking
We'll
about
talk
the
about that when it
trailers
comes out. But I mean, yeah, that's the only thing, at least in terms of this movie and with Hotel Transylvania 2, that I still am like, can you maybe just lock the camera down a little bit more?
Yeah, that seems to be a very Genndy Tartakovsky thing to do as well, because it's here was my theory about this, because like Genndy comes from like a TV animation background, and with TV animation it's like you're kind of really limited. So when you're doing like shots that have a lot of action to it, you kind of have to be very conservative about it.
Yeah.
And I feel now that he's doing movies, he's kind of like
breaking free.
He wants to break free. He wants to like start moving the camera around a whole lot, and he wants to like really make it so that we are in a 3D world. We can do whatever the hell we want. We can like make the camera, and that's true. I mean, like when you have a big budget movie like that, you do have a lot more freedom to move the camera around.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean you have to, but at the same time, it's like it's cool that you would be able to kind of experiment with stuff like that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. Sometimes it's like way too much information at once, but at other times it's like it's almost necessary. It's like, it's something that you could help move the action along in a way. So, but I get what you're saying.
So, and watching the movie again, like we said, it's a solid movie. It's good. It's fun. There's a lot of things that on many levels you could take away from it. The animation, the story, the characters are likable. And so we go in to see the second movie, and you already are kind of predisposed as what the movie is going to be.
So we'll start right here, right now. This is where the spoilers will be.
So
this is where we're gonna be talking about Hotel Transylvania 2. So if you haven't seen it already, or you don't want to be spoiled about anything, just be wary. We're gonna start talking about stuff like that. But if you don't plan on seeing the movie, or you want to just have our opinion on it, keep listening. It's totally up to you. Right from this point on, it's your fault.
Yeah. Don't blame us.
Yeah. It's funny because when the movie started, we almost thought, it was like,
are they playing the same movie?
Are they playing the movie that we just saw? Because like it is like almost shot for shot the beginning of the first movie.
And the funny thing about it, which I thought was really
it even
cool,
kind of ends the same way with like the whole dance thing.
Yeah, but it's really funny. I was waiting for it because it opens up. Even the logo is the exact same.
Yeah.
Everything is the exact same.
Yeah, even
the fog and everything. And then you see Hotel Transylvania on screen for a long time.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, where's the 2?
Right.
Where's the 2? And then it holds, and then it fades away, and you start zooming in, and then suddenly the screen fills up with a big 2. And then you're like, oh, okay, there it is.
Oh, okay.
Good. I didn't walk into like a weird.
I didn't waste my money.
Yeah. So and you go in, and it's weird. The first few minutes of the movie, and this movie doesn't really suffer too much, because we even talked about it a lot with Jungle Book 2, was that usually when you do a sequel to a movie, you have to do a lot of callbacks to the first movie, whether it be a line of dialogue or a joke or a shot or something.
Or like narrating a story. Like this is where we came to.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing that less and less now. Because they realize people already know this is going to be a sequel. They've already seen the first one.
Right.
Who's going to see the second one?
Without seeing the first one.
Yeah, so.
But in this case, they do it, and they get it all out of the way in the first 5 minutes of the movie, it feels. There are a couple moments later in the movie where they just peek at it, but there's not a lot of that. So you get it. So I was kind of thankful that, okay, we're not having remember the first movie? Well, here we go again.
Yeah, it starts off with like the marriage. Like the marriage.
There's a lot of time moving in this first half.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like there's 5 years go by in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. So it's been so they get married and they have a nice wedding ceremony. Then a year passes from then.
Where they have a kid. Wait, no, it's not. It's where she basically announces to her dad that she's pregnant. And then that's like, oh yeah, Dracula's like, I'm gonna be a grandpa, yay!
Yeah.
And then it goes into
cuts ahead to the birth of the baby.
The birth of the baby, and has like a little kid, and Dracula throughout the entire time is basically like, oh, he's gonna be a great vampire. How do you know he's gonna be a vampire?
Right.
It's like he's
oh, come on, he comes from a long bloodline of vampires. He's going to be a vampire.
Yeah.
And the thing is also, he seems just as protective of the boy, the son, who's named Dennis. He's just as protective with him as he was with Mavis when she was a little kid. So
actually, also Mavis is pretty damn protective of.
Yeah, I guess she gets it from her father.
Yeah, so it's basically there's like that dynamic where it's like Mavis is now really protective, just like her father was, and Dracula, the grandpa now, he's basically he's also protective, but he's also like he wants the kid to grow up like
be a vampire. Yeah.
So while Mavis is kind of like child-proofing everything in the castle. There's almost like that. There's that dynamic where it's like Dracula is trying to remember how he grew up as a vampire, like how he was, like how he learned.
Oh, this is how I learned to do this. I learned by catching mice.
Yeah. So it's like I was like a true, this is the way we did it. This is how this kid will probably do it.
But Mavis was like, Dad, he's probably a human. Mm-hmm. He is a human. And he said, no, he's just waiting. His fangs are late, and they're going to come in.
And it's at this moment Mavis is like, that's another thing. Jonathan's parents come to visit during the wedding. So you basically meet them.
Yeah.
And they're like this, suburban family.
Right. And I'm going to say it now. They are probably my least favorite characters in the movie. Not the husband so much, but the mother is the awkward, like...
Oh, yeah,
she accidentally or kind of... She doesn't mean to, but she comes off as being kind of disrespectful, and she doesn't understand monster kind. It's like, oh, well, it would be nice when he's around more normal kids and things like that.
Yeah, Jonathan's parents are played by Megan Mullally. Mullally. And it's like her voice is very recognizable.
Yeah.
I don't
remember
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman, who I love.
He doesn't really have a whole lot of lines, but
it's definitely funny. His character.
Yeah.
Comes off.
Yeah.
But so and as we grow, we cut ahead a couple more years. Mm-hmm. So now Dennis is 5, mm-hmm. and apparently in this world, if you don't have your fangs by 5, uh-huh. you're probably human.
Yeah.
In this case. So at this point,
well, during all this time, you basically get from Mavis that she's really overprotective. She feels that Dennis is going to be human, like he's definitely going to be human in her mind.
Yeah,
and she's scared that being around all this monsters is really rough for him. So he basically feels like, well, maybe we should move to California with Jonathan near his parents and live like
humans,
live with humans. And
of course, Dracula doesn't want that.
Yeah, Dracula doesn't want that. He wants his grandkid, and now he's becoming a little bit protective. It's like, okay, if we can get this kid to be a vampire, then he'll stay here.
We got to jumpstart him a bit.
And also Jonathan wants that. Like Jonathan's like, he's the dad now. He still acts like a freaking idiot.
Yeah, but he loves being with Dracula, and he mm-hmm. loves the castle.
He loves the monster thing.
He even says in the movie, "It's the only place where I feel really accepted and really
right." Yeah, because his family's like freaking lunatics.
Yeah, I could see why he left. But so now Mavis and Jonathan go to California to scope out if this is right for Dennis.
Yeah,
and while they're away, Dracula devises a plan that we're gonna babysit Dennis, mm-hmm. But we're going to try to teach him to be a vampire.
Yeah, it's basically the camping trip to get the kid to be like a rough and tumble kid.
It's like almost like the father-son trip, but it's the grandpa trying to teach.
Yeah. It's so funny. It kind of reminds me of the scene from The Simpsons where Homer is taking Bart
to go kill a reindeer
because he thinks he's gay.
Yeah.
So it's like that was like going in my mind.
I know. I felt the same way too.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're gonna go into the rough wilderness and we're gonna teach this kid how to be a vampire. Like my dad taught me.
But we got to teach her how to be a proper monster. So.
Yeah, they even have like the deer killing thing with the werewolf at some point. It's like, okay, you're going to see a monster and how he's going to kill.
And they're all out of shape.
Yeah,
they haven't done it in a while.
They haven't done it in a while because, throughout the entire time, now they are with humans, and even the hotel, it's like they're accepting.
They're integrating it, so now it's more. Yeah. It's humans are coming.
Yeah, because humans are a little bit more comfortable with the fact that monsters are around, and monsters are more comfortable being around humans. They're almost like celebrities.
Yeah,
it's like there's that scene where it's like Frankenstein's going to scare these 2 girl joggers that are coming down, and then there's like, oh my God, you're Frankenstein! Can we take a selfie with you? Yeah, sure. And he's just like really.
And of course, my favorite thing is whenever you cut back to Dracula, and even in the first movie, you always cut back to Dracula, and he's always got this wonderful
upside down smile.
And it's
right?
funny because my friends ask me every once in a while, "Can you do that face?" And I could do a
Right.
perfect Dracula
Yeah.
frowny face,
Yeah.
where it's a perfect arch.
You know what's funny? It reminds me of the
You can't see it at home, but I'm doing
the
it.
face.
And making
It's the face that the angry video game nerd makes.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
One person once confused me and thought I was the angry video game nerd.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
I was actually out and said, "Oh my god, are you James Rolfe?"
It's like
Do the face, and I'm like, "I'm not James Rolfe," and I did the face, and they laughed. It's like, "Oh, sorry to bother you," and they went off because I guess if I have glasses and short hair and I can make that face.
Well, it's like I don't really think I've ever seen you without your beard or anything.
You don't want to
so
see me.
like,
Yeah. But so anyway, back to this movie.
Yeah.
So there's some great and then you get the steps of okay, Murray, show him to be scary, and Frank, show him how to be scary, and this, that, and so forth.
Yeah. So
And
everybody has
everybody
backfiring,
has their moment except for Invisible Man, because he doesn't really have any power to be scary whatsoever. He's just David Spade, not there.
He's basically the
invisible David Spade.
Yeah, he's the. He's just like the joke.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. It's like there is still a really neat dynamic. It's great that he is still involved in a lot of stuff, but it's not like, he's.
Yeah.
He really needs to be there, but at the same time, it's like he needs to be there
Right.
because it's hilarious. The scenes that he's with, there's even moments where it's like, "Hey, you guys met my girlfriend?" And it's like, "Oh God, is this the one from Canada?"
Yeah.
He puts like the
It's the Invisible Man, but there's not really a girlfriend there.
Yeah, so it's like the invisible girl there, but he's pretending that it's really there.
Yeah.
And it's just fun stuff like that. And I honestly thought there was a lot of stuff about the movie about parenting that I thought was hilarious, because it's like it kind of reminded me of when my sister had her kids, and she was really overprotective with the first one, and then it's like it's. All these like things that you would do is like, oh, they have to eat this, they have to like have protection about this, and the kid had like Fruit Loops in his backpack, or like he ate avocados.
He had fruit by the meter, which was fruit by the foot, but it was by the meter.
Right,
and avocados.
Avocados.
That's his.
He needs to have, because it's like it's
and even
the
they say
good
fat. It's a good fat, whatever that is.
Whatever that.
But it's great. Like there was a lot of moments like that where you're just laughing at little jokes here and there.
It's even funny where it's like Jonathan's trying to get Dracula to be a little bit more high tech, so he gives him like a cell phone,
And he doesn't understand.
and he doesn't know what to do. He's like, he keeps pressing on
With
it.
his-
It's
with
like,
his fingernail.
it doesn't understand. I don't get it. I'm pressing it. It's not working.
Yeah, and it's fun. And another thing, so now after they've tried these failed attempts of having the other monsters teach him, he's like, well, I know where to go. We'll go to our old
Campsite,
camp.
yeah.
And it's funny because when I first saw like promos and trailers for this movie, I thought the whole movie was going to be Dracula needs to teach his grandson how to be a proper vampire. Mm-hmm. And he takes him to a monster camp.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a monster camp movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to see that. But thankfully, I was so pleasantly surprised that only lasts maybe 10 minutes in the movie.
Right.
And then since they were kids, in the time that since they went, the camp
Things have changed.
Things have changed, and things are kind of
the camp
nerfed down.
Yeah.
They instead of going out and catching mice, they just put them on tees,
Right.
which I thought was really funny, like baseball tees.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, really funny, and the flying.
It's basically like we're like wussifying,
Yeah.
kids these days. Like we're being too precious about it.
Right. It's like, this is what Millie, like, people's like, I remember going to this one school. It was a tough school, and it taught me how to be a man. Now you're going to go there and be a man. Then you go, and it's like, oh, we've converted. Now we treat our kids nicely.
Everything is like on like it's like on eggshells. It's like walking on eggshells.
Right. And
It's
so they go, and everything's watered down, and I thought that there was going to be, because I hate this in a movie where you think it's going to be, I kind of like it and hate it, is that you think it's going to go in one direction, and you're like, oh no, I hope it doesn't go in that direction. Please don't go in that direction. And thankfully the movie doesn't. Like, I thought it was going to be like Dracula, because at one point there's a giant tower that's for some reason still, which is how they originally learned to fly.
Right.
They would have this tall,
but it's surrounded like in a fence. And
like,
it's
keep out.
They say it's like a insurance
reasons we can't teach kids this way anymore. So they disobey the rules and climb this giant tower that's rickety and dilapidated.
Yeah.
And they drop Dracula drops Dennis off the tower.
He throws him off.
Throws him off the tower, and he does catch
fly.
him. He does catch him, and then I thought there was going to be a moment where, they were going to call the monster, like the camp leader was going to be like, I got to call the authorities and take your kid away.
Who was voiced by Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey, and it was really funny. I like Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
And
I didn't recognize that at first.
I did. I was like, is that Dana Carvey? And
really?
then I listened, and I'm like, oh, that is Dana Carvey.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Because he does a lot of really fun voices like that, so he can do it. But I was like,
I'm sure
Dana
if you
Carvey.
heard that voice from Dana Carvey before, you probably would recognize it.
So and I thought it was going to be a thing where, oh no, now they're going to take the. I thought they were going to take Dennis away.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they didn't do it, thank God. But either way, while all this is going on, Mavis is in California, and she's like, maybe she there's a lot of things that she loves. Like she goes to a mini mart and she has an amazing time for some reason. She skateboards and with a bunch of kids.
Basically, the complete opposite of what they really were planning. Is that they want to find out that she's like, she has fun, but not a whole lot of fun.
Right, and so, but then she realized maybe this isn't quite what's right, because it wasn't right for her, because she feels
because as soon as they go to Jonathan's parents' place, it's like the parents are just like, oh, I made up the bedroom for you,
and they use like Walmart Halloween decor, and she feels like,
and she invites friends from the neighborhood who are basically like monster relationships,
which is really weird.
Yeah,
she either way, it feels really awkward.
They were very insensitive about it. That's basically what it was. So it's like it kind of made her feel uncomfortable. And they basically talked over it. It's like, and they had that moment where it's like, okay, maybe this isn't right for him. But then
I guess now, because all the kids at the camp they recorded the cell phones, and they all record Dennis being dropped off the thing, and and Dracula.
Basically,
so
this
Mavis
is all over the internet.
Mavis
now.
finds it on her phone, or on technically Jonathan's phone, and goes, "Oh no!" And so they have to race back, because now Dracula
Which was really funny, because they made it. He saw it as a video, like a remix of that video, kind of like. And it
was really funny. And then they even, for some reason, you see footage of Young Frankenstein and the Batman Adam West series in there,
right?
Which is really like, wait, what? And it was really funny.
Yeah.
And so now they have to race back to get to.
Basically, like Mavis is pissed.
Mavis is pissed.
She basically is like, oh God, you lied to me again, and now it's like, I'm gonna go home. We're gonna take Dennis away, and we're gonna like not.
We're gonna have the party.
We're gonna have the party here, but then after that, we're gonna move. So it's basically like Mavis got really upset about.
Yeah, and so she's like, I'm gonna throw a party, and also it's funny because this leads up to a joke later. Dennis is raised kind of compared to how Dracula raised Mavis in a very kind of closeted, like, new age yuppie parents. They teach their kids with Baby Einstein and things like that.
Oh yeah.
There's a monster that he watches on TV.
Yeah.
And it's a CG. I thought it was a real puppet at first, but it's a CG.
It looked
puppet.
real.
It looked like a Muppet.
It really did look real.
It's this Cakey the monster.
Yeah.
Who loves to share.
Basically, he's like Elmo. Almost,
and Dracula's like, come on, that's really a monster.
Really? Is that what they're teaching kids these days?
Yeah. And it's really, really funny. And then later she has this birthday party, and she's like arranged it so that a Cakey, a guy who dresses up like Cakey, goes to the party.
Yeah.
And he invites Dracula's father, Vlad.
Yeah. Throughout the entire movie, we find out, it's like, what if we call Vlad? He'll fix up the kid, right? And Dracula's like, no, we're not going to do that.
Don't bring my father involved.
Don't bring my father involved. He wasn't even invited to the wedding.
Yeah.
So it's this build up that Vlad is like this.
But he's really. If Dracula's old fashioned, then Vlad is really old fashioned. Yeah, he would not accept an inter-monster relationship.
No, he's like
a human grandchild in his family.
Yeah, he's like really old fashioned. He has like a league of man bats.
They're like big, almost like gargoyle-esque.
Yeah, they're monster bats. They're basically like, in a lot of movies, there's like the whole the morphing vampire, which looks like half bat, half human, and they're really like menacing. And basically, he's the leader of it. So he gets the invitation, and it's Mel Brooks.
And which I love.
I thought that was great.
Love Mel Brooks is one of. I love his movies. Like Blazing Saddles is one of my favorite movies, and I just love Mel Brooks. And I mean, even when the first time I ever saw Mel Brooks in anything, it was the Muppet movie, and I loved him in the Muppet movie.
Yeah.
He will turn his brains into guacamole. I just love Mel Brooks,
Yeah.
and
It was
him
a
in this
great
movie,
choice. It was a
and
great choice.
He has great delivery. There's one line because
He's like this Jewish, like
old Jewish comedian,
old comedian, Jewish vampire,
which is great because he's the father of a Jewish comedian,
Yeah.
playing a vampire, which is really funny. But
I didn't think about that.
yeah, but it's really funny. But
Yeah.
so he comes, and there's one line of dialogue that kills me because Jonathan has to, because now that they find out that Vlad's coming. He's like, we got to disguise the humans. So they don't look like they have to be monsters.
He basically dresses them up like
Zombies and
the entire family's coming over, so they dress them up like zombies, and then Jonathan is dressed up like the 1990s Dracula movie. Dracula, where he had he was very pale.
The one that
had
Mr. Burns looked like.
Yeah,
in that one
and he
episode.
had like that weird hair that looked like.
I forget who directed that one. I know it's something.
I know
Dracula.
that Keanu Reeves is in it.
Yeah.
So,
but he's like, and then Dracula it's like, what is it? You look like a baboon's butt.
Yeah.
But then Mel Brooks comes in and meets him and goes, "You look like my grandmother's boobies." Yeah. And just hearing Mel Brooks,
it's like, what is that on your head?
It looks like my grandma's boobies. And I was like, did they really say that?
Yeah, that was
And then I was
great.
like, I'm so glad they said that. I was waiting for parents being like, oh, in the theater.
It's so funny. I wouldn't be surprised if Mel Brooks improv that, and he basically, it's like they were just like, we can't not say this. We really need to just keep this.
They probably
in.
fought for the PG rating.
Oh God, they probably fought for that so much.
But it was so funny, and then either way,
he had a lot of great lines in it.
Yeah.
It was like even when it's like. He's trying to be the evil vampire that's trying to scare the fangs out of. Oh well, this is the thing. They're trying to.
They find out that he's human.
Yeah. Well, Vlad basically was trying to scare the fangs out of him. He basically says we find the most precious thing to him, and then we destroy it right in front of him, and it'll scare the fangs right out of him. It happened to you when you were a kid. You were a late fanger.
Yeah. And so. Keiki, this guy who hates his job, obviously, comes in. He's a children's party entertainer. And he's dressed up like Keiki the clown, or Keiki the puppet monster, and Vlad possesses him.
Yeah,
and scares Dennis.
Yeah,
and then there's a big argument between Mavis saying, "Is this what you really want? You're horrible." And and she makes up with Dracula because Dracula defends Dennis. To Vlad.
Yeah,
to his
basically,
father.
while this is all happening, Dracula basically says no, stop, this is not right. It's like he basically starts feeling for Dennis because this is this is not the right way to go about this.
Yeah, and so, but while everyone's arguing, Dennis feels like he has a moment of I'm not a monster. What am I?
Yeah, and then he runs away, and this is where it's this is the moment where I felt like this is something that they could have done in the first one, but now they did it in this one.
But I mean, it works better in this one because he's a really little kid. He's only 5 years old.
Yeah,
so
I suppose
that's what a kid would do. And but the thing I liked about it was that
he's being followed by one of the only girl wolf.
The only girl werewolf. The daughter of
the
werewolf.
Wayne. Yeah.
And there is moments where she's roughhousing, but she's being cute throughout the movie with Dennis. They run away, and and he says I don't know if I'm really a monster, and she's like, oh, you're the nicest person I know, and that's all that matters to me. So there's a cute little kid.
There's a lot of really cute moments.
And also
with that.
I want to say, because we were talking about briefly the voice cast on the last one. Yeah. Whoever, I forget, I think it's I don't know who plays. I forget who it was that plays Dennis. Mm-hmm. He was so cute
and so sincere too.
Sincere, yeah. And I really like that voice. And usually, when you get a little kid voice in a movie, they seem like his hand is being held throughout the course of the recording. Yeah. It's even though it was in a way, it's still
a good actor.
It was good. He was really genuine.
They were both really good actors. Yeah, actually, the little girl werewolf and Dennis were just they were really well acted,
and they were really good. And then, Bella. After the funny joke, but Bella, who is the main monster bat of Vlad's, hates humans.
He hates humans. He's basically freaking out over this whole thing.
He captures Dennis and I forget the name of the little girl.
No,
a wolf, but
I don't remember.
Either way, but she's really cute.
Yeah,
and no offense to her, but she's really cute. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember your name.
Little girl werewolf.
But and then he he's like, and that's the moment where you feel like it almost hits on top of the head, where he's like, oh yeah, well, you're a human. This is wrong. Does anyone not see this?
Yeah.
It's like watching a Republican.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the Republican.
Bella the Republican.
Bella the Republican monster bat.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, nowadays with all this political debate going on, it's really kind of relatable in a sense. And I'm like, I really,
and it's an easy target, honestly.
It's a really easy target.
Well, anyway, it's like basically the Vlad like tosses the little girl who they've been friends with. By the way, this is another thing I want to talk about. Throughout the entire movie, when we see these two interact, the little girl is very persistent about calling Dennis her zing.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like that kind of was a little uncomfortable. To see, I mean, like
it's ... puppy love.
Yeah.
I knew that you were just
gonna. I was waiting for it. It was like I was looking at you, and it was like, "You're gonna make this a pun, aren't you?" It's like ... As soon as you said that,
and you were like, "What is it? Puppy love."
Yeah, and it's like I guess I don't really mind it.
She really likes him.
Yeah,
I've seen that before, where little kids or little girls or little boys think someone else is cute, and they say, "Oh,
they even play that out.
Let's get married."
They even kind of play that out. It's like they have like a little tea party in this hideout, and later in the movie, and she says something like to the
really funny. It's like get used to this, or don't get used to this because when I'm a successful businesswoman. We won't be having home cooked meals such as this. We'll be ordering out a lot. It was a really cute line, especially out of that
that was really cute.
Out of that cute little girl voice, you hear that, and you're like, "That's precious. That's adorable."
Yeah. But I mean, basically, it's a very close friendship between those two.
They're really like their childhood. They look really cute together and they act cute together.
But it's just funny to me. It's like this whole thing about like love at first sight is the zing, and then they just mentioned that with these like little 5-year-olds.
But you never see that moment, though.
No, you don't. So I guess it's like they're just kind of playing it out. Yeah. They're just kind of like pretending.
But then the Bella throws her, and then suddenly in my mind, because I just see him he gets angry, and his fangs appear.
It's a Popeye moment.
And I literally I was like da 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 like I heard the music in my head.
Right.
And it's funny because then there's a huge where Dennis just kicks this guy's ass and then all the other monsters and Dracula and everybody are looking for Dennis, and they find him fighting, and it's like, oh, you got your, and then
you're a vampire now.
But they send an army of these bats to come, and then they all fight. But the thing what I loved about it was that now that we've heard that the Popeye movie kind of got derailed, which is a shame because that was next to Peanuts. It's probably the only other animated movie that I can think of that was supposedly coming out that I was looking forward to. I mean, Steven DiStefano is doing these amazing designs for the movie. Gendy was doing it. He loves Popeye.
Oh yeah,
and the test looked amazing.
It was a great match.
And I was like, if that's what the movie's going to look like, I'm going to love seeing this movie. Whether it's the story is great or not, I know that it's at least in decent enough hands that it's going to look great and animate great.
Yeah.
So like, I felt like, oh, they're not doing Popeye anymore, or at least Gendy's not doing Popeye anymore. But it was like that moment when I saw that, I'm like, that's them trying to get their fight scenes, their Popeye slapstick punching, and literally it's fine because it's a little kid monster bat getting punched in the face, which I thought was totally fine, and everyone jumps in, and there's some great battle stuff where someone's squashing someone else or smacking someone with this or doing that, and I thought it was a really I mean, you didn't we'll talk about it.
Well, yeah, no, I honestly thought like the whole thing with Vlad was neat, and it kind of like it happens all in the last 10-15 minutes of the movie. I feel like there could have been, it's like new information that is just suddenly brought into the movie.
It's Vlad?
Well, the whole fact that like he has Bella and like this monster like really hates humans and everything. It's like we find all about that near the end, and when Vlad comes in, it's like the build up to this character is like there could have been a little bit more characterization with him. I mean, it was fine for what it was. I just feel like there could have been like a little bit more moment between them, and
between
Vlad, Dracula, and the kid, and the family, and everything. And it just, I don't know, for some reason, the entire final battle of the whole movie, it's just like, oh, suddenly there's an instant villain. But it's kind of like the first one, where it's like the Hunchback is like suddenly the villain or something.
True.
And now, And now, like, there's this bat, like this vampire bat guy who is suddenly the threat. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the concept that that Dennis becomes a vampire at that moment? What do you think of that?
He was a late fanger.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, you know what? It's hard because now it's not that I feel on the spot. It's just that, you know what? I'm on a different stance where, you know, it's like we discussed before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could have been done differently, but in my mind, I can't think how.
How would you? Yeah, how would you have done it differently?
They mentioned early on in the movie that should we get Vlad involved? No, not Vlad. They even mentioned 2 or 3 times Vlad, and he's like, no, let's not get Vlad involved. But yeah, and then you cut to Vlad, and he's got this henchman, and he's like, oh, humans are terrible. I mean, they don't really explain why he hates humans.
Well, here's the thing.
But can you really explain why a Republican hates?
Damn it! With
what reason?
Republican vampires.
It's just his bias that you can't really explain.
Yeah. Well. What I'm trying to get here is that throughout the entire final moments of the movie, we have that argument with Mavis and Jonathan and Dracula and Vlad. It's like, you know, they're all arguing for what they want for the kid, you know, what's right for the kid. And basically it's like it's what they want for Dennis.
Yeah.
And all in all, it's like Dennis hasn't really gotten his word in for all of this. You know, he's, you know, for all we know, he's just like a human kid, and he doesn't know. He wants to stay, or does he want to go to a human place?
Well, he doesn't. I mean, there is a moment earlier where he doesn't like. He kind of doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Because he loves his grandpa.
And there's a lot of moments where he's also like, when he's around the other human characters, it's like, oh, he doesn't really fit in. You know, all the other kids make fun of him and everything. And, you know, it wouldn't have been a great place for him in the human area.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like very dangerous for him to be in the monster area. And I feel like the whole concept with him suddenly becoming a vampire now, it's like that's all negated. It's like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter anymore. Now he's going to be with the monster people. So
well, I mean, either or. Even earlier in the movie, there was that moment where Mavis didn't really. She felt like she didn't belong.
Yeah.
And you know, Jonathan convinced her. Mm-hmm. You know, you're cool. It's like there's times I feel like a freak. Oh no, you're great. You know, you're.
Yeah, but it's also because Jonathan wanted to be with the monsters as well. It wasn't really how much he felt. You know,
but I mean, he would have. But the thing is, he would have done it, whether or not Mavis.
Yeah, I guess
he would have went along with it. I mean, you might not have liked it, but he would do anything for Mavis to make sure she was happy.
I guess, you can see that for a little bit.
But I mean, like, in the case of Dennis turning into, I mean, I don't really feel like he found his. Because you don't know whether or not. I mean, what you thought it probably would have been better if they all saved him and he was a human, but they kept him in the monster world. Would it have been better that way, or?
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm trying to think of like how would that have been a good resolve, where it's like all of a sudden they realize what Dennis wants and he wants to stay with the monsters, you know, even though it's dangerous or something like that, and you know, even though it's dangerous, like now that he's a vampire, it's no longer a danger to him, so he can like stay there for all he wants.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, the thing about it with me is that it's the first time in the movie where Dennis makes a choice for himself, and it's not really a choice. It's him that he's actually angry and he's acting on something rather than having something done for him.
Yeah,
he's he's getting coddled by his mother.
Yeah,
he's getting, you know,
pressured
by his father, and in a way his mother.
Yeah,
I mean, if you were a little, I mean. I remember being a little kid and not believing in something I didn't want to do, but having my parents tell me to do it. Like, I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 10 or 12 when my parents said we're moving.
Yeah, it's true.
And I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay. And if I had the chance, I would have stayed, but I moved.
Yeah, you know? but at the same time, it's like this is about pressuring him as to what he is. And I don't know. That just...
Well, it's not like all the pressuring in the world is what made him into a vampire. I mean, he was a vampire to begin with, but who knows if he I don't know.
Well, they didn't even know if he was a vampire to begin with.
They didn't know. They couldn't tell. He didn't have his fangs in, I guess, which is the only way.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like I almost feel like if he would have stayed a human, that probably would have been a little bit more dynamic into saying, was like, you know, we thought he could be a vampire, but no, he has to be true to what he is, which is a human. But he loves to be with monsters, so
I guess I see what you mean. Like, did he need to become a vampire?
Yeah, I don't.
No, I guess not.
No. I think it's like,
But he said he wanted to be Batman.
Yeah,
so
he did. Well, he wanted to be Batman.
He technically got the best of both worlds. He gets to be human, yet a monster. So it's okay. Because he says, what do you want to be? I want to be a superhero. I want to be like Batman.
Right.
He technically is like Batman. He went in and saved the day.
Yeah.
He turned into Batman.
Yes.
Which is technically he's Batman now. Or
guess,
Batboy.
Well, I guess so.
Batfink.
I'm curious to think what other people's takes on the ending would be, because for me, honestly, it's like I'm a little bit confused by it.
Like I'm on the opposite stance.
Oh no, I understand that.
But I mean, I think that's good that we can now discuss it and see why we feel that way about it.
And at the same time, it's like I see it. I see the ending, how it could have been. But I also think to myself, like, what we were talking about, if we could have done it differently, how do you think it could have been presented if he didn't become a vampire? And I thought that maybe it would have been interesting. Maybe there would have been a different resolve. Like maybe that whole man bat wouldn't have been involved or something. But then I guess there wouldn't really have been a threat.
But I mean, like I'm glad that they had that moment, because otherwise it would have been just an acceptance moment, and you'd have had the characters sitting around and having the deep talk with each other, and there'd have to have been some danger, and the danger probably wouldn't have been nearly as great as having this thing that has a weird to say, a bigot bat.
Right.
Just a bigot. Like, he just does not believe in monsters and humans coexisting, and hates humans and wants to kill humans.
Right.
But I mean, it's extreme, but I think it's a better option for that situation than just having him running away and then having to find him, and then having, like, you could be whatever you want to be. I don't care if you're going to be if you're a vampire or maybe it would have been great because they say throughout the movie, it doesn't matter if you're a vampire or a human or a unicorn. You should just turn into a unicorn. Because throughout the movie they say, it doesn't matter, even if you're a unicorn, I'll love you. You should have turned into a unicorn. That would have solved the problem. Like, well, we love you just the way you are, even if you are a unicorn.
You get a pony, and you get a pony.
Shit.
Okay.
Goddamn. But you know what I mean, right?
No, I understand.
But yeah, I mean, I could see how they would have handled it differently.
Well, I have to be honest. I still love the movie.
I laughed a lot. You laughed a lot.
I laughed a lot.
I laughed a lot.
Yeah,
I personally,
and it was really, really good. There was a lot of really fun stuff to it, and I really loved a lot of the interactions between the characters. It was very heartwarming, and
that's what I love about a movie. I don't care about the story. Personally, I mean, the story is a factor involved, but for me, it's really the character. If I don't like the character or the situation that the character... I mean, the situation...
if you don't like the characters, there's no way you're going to like the movie.
So I love the characters. I like Dracula. I thought Dennis was cute. I like Mavis and Jonathan. I like all the monsters. I like all the characters in the movie.
It's funny. I did not think that I would really like Jonathan and Mavis as a couple, like as a married couple. But
they're like a young couple.
They're a young couple, which is really interesting, because it's like, there's young couples like that. They're aloof, but also they're trying to be parents. Like Mavis really shows it's like, she's really young. She wants to do it right, so she does it like extremely right.
And the fact that also she is a vampire, and supposedly Dennis is a human. She has to baby-proof everything. She has to baby-proof a guillotine, like stuff like that,
right?
And put baby gates in random places.
Yeah.
And, it was
fun stuff.
I thought it was fun. Yeah.
It's fun stuff.
I laughed more. I would say there were funny moments. There's a lot of really great funny moments in the first movie, but I felt like do you know what? And my opinion of it is that you think about the first movie in terms of the production. There was 6 directors on it. I mean, Gendy was the 6th director.
Right.
They had that movie going in and out of production for years. And they had the everything already planned out. He just sort of came in at the last minute and rushed to get a movie done by the time it did. And it came out great.
My God, he did.
And then you could see the moments where things are rusty in the first movie.
Yeah, you were telling me this about...
Even there's moments where they didn't quite know how to handle the character. There's one scene where Dracula's in the closet. Which doesn't sound weird. Dracula when Jonathan first comes to the hotel in the first movie,
Yeah.
and Dracula drags him into the closet and says, "Oh no, what are we gonna do?" And he
that
shows
was-
him
you,
music
You were telling me that might have been one of the first
scenes in the movie because Dracula
made.
even looks different, like his model looks different.
Yeah, there was like a definite change to it. It's not super noticeable,
and
but
the
it's,
animation isn't quite pushed as it is for the rest of the movie. Like it looks like they were testing the waters to see if they
Yeah.
could pull off the stuff that Gendy wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And in that movie, they only had a very short amount of time in the grand scheme of. Usually, it takes anywhere between 3 to 5 years to make a movie. In this case, I think they only had a very short window, maybe about a year or two, or 2 years to do this, whatever Gendy's version of this movie was.
right.
And they had to, it worked.
And
but
then
in
the
this
s-
movie,
and then the
they had
second
all
one-
the time in the world.
Yeah, because they
Gendy
already
was
had
on it
all
from
the
the beginning.
models, they already had all the sets, they already had all the characters made, and
Yeah.
it's like
And Gendy was in it from the beginning, so they knew what they were doing and not rushing anything or burying things or
Yeah.
trying to hide things.
One thing that I really noticed is that there was a part, and there was like a scene in there, and I kind of leaned over to you and I said, like, do their eyes look way bigger than
In the first movie?
the first movie?
And they looked a little bit.
Yeah, there were moments where it's just like they just held that. It wasn't just more like an animation thing. It was just like it was held, and they had like these huge eyes in comparison to all the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And
But they really pushed the expressions more than in the last movie.
Yeah.
They pushed the poses more than the last movie. They really built on what was great about the last movie and built up on it.
Yeah.
Which I thought the animation was spectacular. I thought the posing
Oh,
was spectacular.
one
The
of my-
jokes were great
yeah,
too. I thought there was some
one of
great
my
humor.
one of my favorite scenes in the second one is when Dracula is like he picks out his pajamas and he starts like just putting it on, coming out of the closet.
Yeah, you
It's
were
like,
laughing the whole time.
I loved
Whoever
the
animated that
acting
scene.
in
Yeah.
that entire scene. It was hilarious. He had so much great and it was helped with Adam Sandler the way he like performed it, and it's like it was accentuated by all the movement.
Yeah.
So it's like because he was like mimicking Jonathan, like being like a cool dude and everything. Is he? Dude, this is like a great thing, man. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
And then Frankenstein
Coming
comes
in and putting on the capes.
He
and
puts
there's
on the
a-
capes and it's like too tight, and he's trying to take
And
it
there's
off.
a really awkward moment where they're just staring at each other.
He's there
and it
with his
keeps going.
shirt off.
And he's just there for a really long time, and I really thought that was funny. And that was funny. And even I saw it in the trailer, and I'm like, they're gonna put this in the movie, but I thought it was really funny when the tower collapsed and he goes fire, and he runs, and it just he
lights the entire camp on
and
fire.
you just see them run, the little characters in front going stop, drop, and roll, and running. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
I thought
There was
some of the physical humor with the blob creature, which was
Yeah.
funny, and they just like bolted his rascal scooter onto the side of the van, and
yeah. There was, God, this movie. Yeah, when you
they upped the jokes a lot.
They did. I mean,
thought it was really funny. I mean, I laughed.
there was a lot more visual humor in this
never-
compared to the other one.
I think I've said this before in another episode. I don't usually laugh out loud at things. I usually chuckle to myself. There was moments where I was laughing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's great. It's good to go to a movie and laugh. And also, we were with an audience filled with, surprisingly, and usually I like going to movies. I love going to a movie where it's filled with an audience. I'd rather, because there's nothing worse for me than going to the movies and kind of not and having an empty off. Because there's times where we wish that it was an empty auditorium.
It was like, yeah, well, yeah,
because
yeah,
then
yeah.
we could like Mystery Science Theater it up while we watch the movie.
But like the Jurassic Park, the Jurassic World movie when we saw it, that theater was packed.
Yeah.
And it was awesome though.
Yeah, because people were
like,
cheering and gasping. And
yeah, it's like the action scenes, and we were just like everyone was just like really pumped.
Being
and,
with
like,
the audience helps the experience. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're kind of through like almost through osmosis of being around other people.
yeah, it does.
So, and we saw with usually I can't stand being in an audience filled with kids because usually they're restless and they can't handle it. And they talk throughout the movie and they're like, "Mommy, what's that?" Shh, dear, shut up. No, the mother would say, "Never say shut up to her kid." Oh, some parents, but I don't approve of that. But surprisingly, the kids
Kids were
really content and they were really engrossed in the movie and they laughed a lot.
Yeah, there was a
and
lot
I felt
of
like
laughing.
we were probably the only people who just kind of went to the movie that weren't kids. I didn't see anybody else that wasn't a kid
other than parents.
with parents, and I felt really weird in that sense. I was the only like adult person without a child in that theater.
Yeah.
But I laughed a lot. I thought the animation was I mean, it was good all around.
It was really fun. It felt good watching that.
Yeah,
movie.
and I loved again. And now I think it's time. I think we should go to the best of the worst.
Yes, let's talk about let's talk about the best and the worst.
I was ready for that. So, but I mean, now since we're talking about both movies, let's say what's the best and the worst for number 1 and number 2, or do you want to just take them as a whole?
I think as a whole, we should probably say what the best and the worst thing is.
Let's start with, what do you want to start with? The best.
You want to start with the worst or the best?
Stop moving the goddamn camera.
So we're starting with the worst already.
No, well, I mean, honestly, when you really think about it, I mean, it didn't. I felt like the camera moving in this movie didn't hurt the jokes at all. I don't think it really hurt it. So I can't really, in the second movie, I can't really say like, okay, stop moving the camera. It took me out of the movie. It is a minor. It's a very minor nitpick pet peeve of mine. But in the grand scheme of it, no, I didn't mind it.
It started to make me think. I was like, I would not want to see this movie in 3D. It would give me a headache.
Yeah, we were like, I asked you, did you get tickets in 3D?
Yeah, exactly.
And you were like, no. And part of me was like, thank God.
When you asked me that, I half doubted myself. I was like, wait, did I?
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm glad, because I think the only movies that look good in 3D are stop motion movies. Coraline looked great in 3D.
You know
Paranorman looked great in 3D.
Yeah, you know what? I can vouch for that, because I did see Coraline in 3D, and that was really nicely done.
Yeah. You really feel like you're in the set.
Yeah.
But with a CG movie, I mean, I think the only other time I felt it was really cool was maybe Dragons, the first Dragons.
Yeah.
And maybe Up, because I felt immersed.
Yeah. Oh, did I ever tell you that I saw Beauty and the Beast in 3D?
Oh, that was one of the worst 3D experiences I've ever had.
That was like stretching it. Yeah. That was basically like...
Yeah. It only looked good when the camera was still. Because the problem is, with the projection, everything is shot usually on 2s.
Yeah.
So when things are on... If the camera's moving and things are on 2s or 1s or whatever... if a character's just moving around, there was a strobe, and it looked awful.
Yeah. And something I also noticed with 3D movies is, like, if it's really dark... you don't really get the 3D effect very well.
If it's a dark scene.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, it's like, because I hate to admit this, but I saw that Pocahontas ripoff movie. What was it called? Avatar. I saw Avatar.
I wouldn't have thought Avatar's... Well, true, it is a Pocahontas ripoff movie.
Well, I always consider it the Pocahontas ripoff movie. Yeah. And,
should I marry Cocoa?
But no, I saw Avatar in 3D, and the 3D effects worked for a while. But then it's like my eyes suddenly adjust, and the 3D is no longer there for me.
Yeah. That happens, a while you get used to it.
That happens to me in almost every 3D movie that I watched. All of a sudden, I'm like used to it, and I don't really care about the 3D.
You're not getting your money. You feel like you're not getting your money's worth.
No, it's not. It's just an expensive ticket, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, when you have like a movement of camera that much, it's going to be very jarring, and it hurts your brain.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's trying to catch up.
I can't remember the last movie I saw in 3D.
I can't even remember either, honestly.
Yeah. But either way, but
even by accident, I don't remember.
Yeah. But I'm trying to remember now. We're talking about the best and the worst. So I want to say the worst for me.
Well, you already said the camera movements.
Well,
right?
I mean,
or was that just like a?
I mean, yeah, the camera moving unnecessarily was partially it. It's weird. At the moment, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very difficult segment, especially if we really like a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie a lot, so it's kind of hard for me.
So it's like really when it comes to the worst, it'll be really nitpicking for me.
It's like
for me, it's like I'm not going to say that whole scene where he Dennis turns into a vampire is really bad. I'm not going to say that. I do really think the weakest part for me in the movie is like that entire final scene where it's like they have the fight. For some reason, it didn't really resonate to me that well. It just seemed kind of out of left field, you know? It was like, it's like all of a sudden we need to have a resolve. Let's put a villain in suddenly. And, you know, we all of a sudden have like this stopping point that needs to be continued with. Yeah. And the only way to continue that is like fighting it off.
But I can't imagine what would be another, have Vlad be the villain?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what could make it better. I mean, Vlad is already kind of like bigoted himself, so having this even...
Yeah.
But I think they wanted to have him have a bit more heart to him, so having this other giant bat person who's even a bigger bigot would probably have been a better dynamic. You know, it's like who do we want to have as a who do we want to have as like a good character in the end of this? Do we want to have Vlad, or do we want to have something else? So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really a nitpicky thing for me on it, but it didn't bother me that much. When I say it's like the worst thing, it's like the worst thing that I can think of off the top of my head, because there really aren't a whole lot of things that I can say are terrible about this movie. And while it's not perfect, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I really had a lot of fun. And my cat is just like all over you right now. He needs attention.
It's because he keeps knocking into the microphone, keeps knocking into these speakers over here.
Don't worry, Schwartzy. We're almost done.
Yeah. We'll play with you soon.
And okay, in terms of the best thing, what would you say is the best thing?
Well, I think we said it before. I think it's because, compared to all the other movies that were coming out at the time, movies like Cloudy and then Hotel Transylvania is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing we're going to get to. I mean, at the time, it was the closest thing we can get to traditional 2D animation in a CG skin.
Sense, yeah.
So I think the animation in both movies, the second one definitely more so, the animation and the overall graphic 2D-like sensibilities of it is what immediately draws me to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I in the second movie, I mean, the characters are great. Like we said, the character interactions are great. I love just the troop of the monsters. They're fun, and all the interaction stuff is great. But I enjoy the humor. I thought the comedy, the jokes, not too many were like groaners.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised. I mean, not a lot. I mean, there's a couple monster punny areas, but they're not like, oh my god, I want to die. That pun will kill me.
Yeah.
I thought. I mean, it's hard. It's a toss up between the animation,
ice cream, or what was it?
Scream cheese.
Scream cheese. Yeah.
Scream cheese, and then I think I forget what the other thing. One of the other movies, it was something else.
Cake that screams.
Cake that screams.
Well, I mean, like the thing about the second movie is that it's more visual. They don't like say the gag. They don't really say the pun. The pun is in the visual humor of it.
Yeah.
So it's like I think that's honestly that lessens the blow. If you see it as a visual gag, it's like funny.
There was one visual gag where he's like, "Oh, we can't use the phone." It's like, "Don't worry, just stick the Bluetooth." And then just a big big Bluetooth just walks in.
Yeah, that one was that one was kind of like. That was pushing it a little bit. That was just like.
But that's really, I mean.
But really, what else can you say about it?
It's like in the second Cloudy movie, it goes piece of cake, and they just cut to a piece of cake, just looking at the camera.
Oh my god, Cloudy was like nothing but puns.
The second one or the first one?
Second one.
Which is weird because I have to say though, like now that we're talking about sequels to, I mean, I love the first Cloudy, The Chance of Meatballs. I really like the first Hotel Transylvania. The second Cloudy, for some reason, I felt like it fell flat in comparison to the first movie. There were things I liked about it, but it was a very pun-heavy movie in terms of its humor.
That's a thing that I kind of wanted to start with, honestly, with this entire podcast, but now that we're near the end, when it comes to sequels, especially when it comes to theatrical sequels now, I kind of expect to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I always like... It's the second one is never going to be as good as the first, and it's really just a continuation of a story that we've already seen, just adding a little bit more to it.
But this movie feels at least
I'll have to say that this is probably the first sequel that I've seen in theaters that really just it feels like a continuation, but it's not like it really does feel like it's continuing the feel of the first one. And continuing on where it's like it actually feels right.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Where with a lot of sequels, it's just like you kind of lose a little bit of heart of the first one. And you don't really... I don't know. It's like you already know what these characters are capable of. And the only character that you're really going to feel any sort of emotional connection to are the new ones that are coming in.
Yeah.
And sometimes that falls flat because sometimes when a new character comes in, they're not as,
or it throws off the dynamic of the original main
yeah,
character.
exactly.
Like.
Yeah, it's like adding to a team that doesn't really need to be added to. Here,
Right.
it's like they didn't really add anything. I mean, it's like they already had like the troop, you know.
The only two characters that were really new were Dennis and Vlad.
Yeah,
and
they
Dennis it felt welcome. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like, oh, we shoved a baby into this movie or a child into this movie for no reason.
Yeah.
It fit the mold. Mm-hmm. And with this, it's I was gonna say with oh Lord, I had it on my mind and then I lost it. Yeah. But
well, here it's like I also wanted to say that with the whole troop dynamic, then they added Blobby into the mix. It's like, oh, I told him that he could join us, and even then, it's just like he's there for a couple gags, and then he's just gone, you know, and he comes back later on.
He's all right. He's Blobby. It's okay.
He's fine. He's Blobby.
Yeah. But I remember what I was going to say. It's satisfying when I go to a movie. Is that if it's really great, a really great feeling when you go to a movie with, I don't want to say low expectations, but expectations that are set in a very specific point where you're like, I expect it's just going to be more of the same.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Is it really going to be as good? No, but it's fun to see these characters again. I have to admit, I went into this movie, and there's nothing better than going to a movie with a lower expectation.
Yeah.
And coming out not only satisfied with the movie, but like, oh, it was better than I expected. Like, I went in, like I said before, thinking that this was going to be the monsters go to camp and they relive camp.
Yeah.
But no, it really wasn't. And I was surprised that it went in the directions that it did. It when you go in expecting one thing and you're given another thing, you're like, oh, that's nice. It's also good when you go and you see a movie where the trailer is
Yeah.
like the trailer for the Hotel Transylvania really wasn't a true trailer. It was really just that one scene of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they didn't really I don't remember seeing a true trailer for this movie where it's like, they're back with thing. And
you know, yeah, it's funny. It was like the trailers for this, it's like, you know, a lot of trailers today, they basically say the entire story right out. You know, it's like from scene to scene.
Yeah, the trailers for this movie didn't feel like that.
Well, here it's like, I thought Vlad was going to come in earlier. And while, there was moments where I thought like, maybe he could have been there earlier. He really is not in it until the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's like he fit well, and he was like a great addition. It's just that I thought that there was going to be a central focus with a... Sorry, there was like a little pause in the audio right now because we all of a sudden, like...
The computer fucked up.
My computer just froze up. And
I'm tired of hearing you mortals talk about a movie... where do you guys not get that Adam Sandler's playing Dracula? For God's sake, Hollywood. No.
Well. At any rate, what I was really going to say is that my expectations through the trailer is like, well, I was honestly really excited about Hotel Transylvania 2 because I liked the first one, and my expectations were really low on this because of my thoughts on sequels as a whole. And, you know, I never really come into a movie with low expectations, but when I do, I often come out of them with that sort of, you know, negative attachment to the fact that it's like, oh, I already predetermined that this is going to be crappy, so it's going to seem crappy. But honestly, most of the time I come out of the movie and I'm really surprised. I'm like pleasantly surprised that the movie is better than I thought it was. And you know, sometimes it's like I go into movies where I think it's going to be really great, and then I come out of it and it's like, oh God, this was awful.
And then you go home and cry.
And then I go and cry into a
puddle of
cake.
Cake?
A puddle of cake.
Screaming cake. But
anyway, to wrap it up, basically, it's
what was your best of this movie?
My best, okay, Mavis. I'm sorry, I like Mavis.
Wow.
No, I really do love the characters. All of the character designs, the dynamics, the character. You know, even the fact that Murray the mummy, like his voice was replaced because
after the first movie came out,
between the first movie and this movie, he got into a lot of
CeeLo Green
problems,
caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so he was replaced by Keegan-Michael Kay, who I don't know what his other
isn't he? Wait, who'd you say it was?
Keegan-Michael Kay? I don't know.
I think isn't he from Key and Peele?
I think so.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen it.
Well, he's more of a comedian than CeeLo Green. Right?
Yeah, but honestly, it's like it's not really a big loss.
Yeah,
for CeeLo Green. So and he didn't really have a whole lot of lines in the first one anyway. So it's like, nah,
yeah.
But still, it was like. Fine, it wasn't really a big problem, but I love all of the characters in this movie. It's just so very lovable and you can really appreciate them.
Yeah,
it's like watching them. You see their characteristics and their struggles and the humor in their your personalities. It's a really, really good thing watching all of that. Good. So yeah, so that's basically.
You know what? I'm going to add another. Going to go back and recant on best. Mm-hmm. The best was, "You look like my grandmother's boobies." That line still makes me laugh. That was probably one of my.
His grandmother must have had really hairy boobies.
Just hearing Mel Brooks say that, just hearing him say those lines, and as an elderly Jewish Dracula,
right?
Which is really funny.
Yeah. So basically, if you have not listened to everything or you skipped ahead to the end of it, we basically recommend Hotel Transylvania 2.
And the first one.
Both
of them.
They're both really good.
Check them out.
Yeah. They're really good movies, and you'll have a lot of fun. So
yeah.
So with that said, this has been another great Animated Anarchy cast. We're going to have another one soon. We're going to have one with a guest, actually.
Yes. We don't know what quite the subject is going to be.
No, we don't.
But we don't
really have any plans yet, but we're going to have a guest, and it's going to be really nice, and it should be a lot of fun because I want to have like another voice to discuss with as well, because yours is totally boring. I'm kidding.
I was waiting for you to say something. It takes a lot off my shoulders.
No. I seriously, it's going to be nice to have like a third person here discussing with us, and so really, if you have any discussion that you would like to add to the Hotel Transylvania scene, it's probably best that you go to our Facebook page, Animated Anarchy Cast. So facebook.com/Animated Anarchy Cast. And that's probably the best place that you can get a hold of us. Because usually we get lost in the mail and Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Facebook is probably the best way to communicate also with other people who also listen to the show. So please like us there, and also follow us on iTunes and Stitcher. And give us a good review if you really liked us. If you didn't, then you can go jump off a roof. And just give us a positive review. And if you would like to follow us on Twitter, Michael is at
A Guy Who Draws, which I'm still surprised that I claim that name.
Yeah, and I am at AWD Twit, and you can contact us there and follow us on any updates that we have on our life and whatnot. I mean, we are artists. We do things.
We draw occasionally.
We draw.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, but seriously, Facebook is probably the best way to get a hold of us. And please do us the biggest of favors by spreading the word about our podcast through these social media sites. Because it would greatly help us, and we could get some more content for you, and we would also like to have some sponsors once,
please,
at some point. Please. I mean, we're not really getting paid for this. We're actually losing money.
Yeah.
Doing this.
Well, you're losing more money.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I'm the one with all the movies. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, please, if you would, please spread the word about our podcast, and it would greatly help the show. And also, if there are any animation enthusiasts out there who like to listen to podcasts like us, it gives them an opportunity to listen to us and either agree with us or yell at whatever speaker that they're listening to us on.
And also, feel free to ask questions.
Yes,
we love reading questions.
Yeah, we love getting questions. Again, you can post them on Facebook. You can message us there, and we can read it on the show, and we can give answers. And we also have like a mini cast once in a while whenever we get a nice question that we can answer. So yes, that was Animated Anarchy. I am Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
We will see you next time.
See you around.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.